What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Poke Office. My name is Colin. Today's video, we're going to look at the top 50 illustration rare cards that have come out of Scarlet and Violet era so far, and I think you're going to really like it because not only are we looking at the value, like the top 50, but it's easy sometimes to forget just how good the artwork is, and there's a few of these. I've pulled most of these illustration rare cards, but there's a few of these that I forgot about, and as I was putting this list together, I just was like, wow, Pokemon is absolutely knocking this out of the park. And like I said, it's easy to lose sight of that because sometimes I'm chasing the special illustration rares or we're looking for the most valuable cards of the set. And sometimes it's like, ooh, another illustration rare. That's cool. Maybe it's a couple bucks extra to go trade in towards the card that you're actually chasing. But if you're just looking at it for the artwork or looking at it like because you like collecting the illustration rares, Scarlet and Violet is not to be beaten. It's just so good. So we'll take a look. This we'll start at number 50 and we'll go all the way to the number 1 most valuable illustration rare card out of Scarlet and Violet era so far. All right, so number 50, we're starting with the Gimme Ghoul card out of Paradox Rift. So 50 total cards, illustration rare cards anyways, that are worth $7 or more. This whole page in that $7 range. Next, we got the Miss Magius. That's one of the ones that I kind of forgot. It's from Paldea Evolved. I don't think I've ever pulled that one, actually. And, I mean, the artwork is just so good. Then we move on to Paradox Rift again with the Vanillish. Not my favorite card in the world, but still pretty cool. And all these cards, really, if you pull the top 50, you're going to get your monies back from the pack plus a little bit of extra. Then we go to Nidoking from Scarlet and Violet 151, $7.39. Then back to Paldea Evolved Tinkatuff. Really cool. That whole line is really awesome, including the Tinkaton special illustration rare at the end. Then back to Paradox Rift with the Magby on the bottom left there, $7.44. Cleffa from Obsidian Flames, one of only 2 cards on the list from Obsidian Flames, but arguably one of the best artworks out there, in my opinion. Then Frigibax, that's from Paldea Evolved, our first Scarlet and Violet base set, Drowsy, at $7.75 there, and then the newest set, Twilight Masquerade, coming in with the Hisuian Growlithe. Of course, that card pairs with the Perrin special illustration rare. One of my favorites, for sure. All right, moving on. Then another Twilight Masquerade one with the Infernape. This actually is not my favorite card in the world for whatever reason. It's a little too busy, but still a cool card to pull. That one's at $8.24. Then we have the Plusle, and the Minun is just down below at number 32. So the Minun apparently is a little more popular. That's okay. $8.42 for the Plusle. Another one back to Scarlet and Violet base set, the Slowpoke. Arguably one of the low-key favorite cards for me. I just really like that style of artwork for some reason. Kind of just gimmicky, cartoonish artwork, and Slowpoke. I mean, how do you go wrong with that? $8.45. Then the Sawsbuck at $8.54. That one is from Temporal Forces. I think that's our first Temporal Forces hit on the list. Then another Temporal Forces with the Cinccino, $8.87. Back to a Paradox Rift with the Loud Red, a very interesting card and a really cool one at that. That's our first card over $9. Then another Scarlet and Violet base set one, the Riolu, also a really cool card. Now, number 33, the Marill from Paldea Evolved. I've never pulled this card, and it's kind of like I kind of had forgot it even existed because, number 1, I hadn't pulled it, and number 2, it's not all that popular of a chase card, but look at the artwork. It's just fantastic. Then, of course, we already talked about the Minun, $9.55 from Paradox Rift. And then the Psyduck rounding out this 10 from 40 to 31, coming in at $9.90. That card from Scarlet and Violet 151. All right, back to Paldea Evolved, the Baxcalibur. Also another really cool evolution line in the illustration rares. I like those ones a lot. Then the Tatsuguri. This actually, I think, could change my mind while I'm recording this. But as of right now, this is my favorite card on the illustration rare list. I'm just kidding. Number 1 is obviously my favorite one. But out of the cheaper ones, definitely the Tatsuguri. Mousehold coming in from Paldea Evolved at $10.48. Back to Scarlet and Violet 151 for the Poliwhirl at number 27. And then Temporal Forces has the Metagross, a really interesting card at $10.71. Paradox Rift has the Morpeko at $11.59. Ninetales, that's the other Obsidian Flames card on the list here. Number 24 at $11.75. I absolutely adore that card as well. It is so good, and there's so many really good illustration rare cards out of Obsidian Flames, and still the prices are just really, really low. Like, the most expensive one is that Ninetales at $11.75. The rest of them weren't expensive enough to make the list, which shows you how good that artwork is and how cheap those Obsidian Flames cards are. Scarlet and Violet base set has the Kirlia as well. That's part of the Ralts Kirlia Gardevoir line, one of my favorites, and really like what started that kind of trilogy aspect of illustration rare, special illustration rare cards in Scarlet and Violet era so far, which I absolutely love. Then we have the starter Fuecoco coming from Paldea Evolved at $11.85, and then another Paldea Evolved one, the Sudowoodo. Where is the Sudowoodo? Of course, it's right there. If you can see my mouse, $12.03. Number 20, the Heracross from Paldea Evolved, $14.13. Then Dragonair from 151 at $14.90. Sprigatito, another starter from Paldea Evolved, $14.96. Meaning that we have 17 total illustration rare cards out of Scarlet and Violet era so far that are worth more than $15. The Ralts at $15.93. Then the Chansey, that one's from Twilight Masquerade, $16.31. Another card that the artwork is just absolutely spectacular in my opinion, and it just keeps getting better. The Evoltal, really cool card as well, $16.79. That one from Paradox Rift. Then the rest of them on this page are all from Scarlet and Violet 151. I mean, there's something to be said. Scarlet and Violet 151 has the more expensive pack price, and the illustration rares kind of follow that, where they're all fairly expensive compared to some of the other sets. Wartortle coming in at number 14, $18.43, followed by Pikachu at $19.38, Ivysaur at $19.81, and number 11, before we get to the top 10, is the Charmeleon at $21.11, meaning there's 11 total illustration rare cards out of Scarlet and Violet era so far that are worth $20 or more. We're into the top 10. Here we go. Steelix from Paradox Rift, $22.73. Remember, just a couple months back, maybe even just last month, this card had a really nice gain because it used to be in that like $10 to $13 range. Now it's at $22.73. Really interesting artwork, and I mean, I could see Steelix doing some construction work for sure. Really, really cool. Then we have the Bulbasaur from 151. This honestly is not my favorite card, but of course it's one of the original Kanto starters, Bulbasaur, and like the 151 set just holds a lot of value, it seems like. This card coming in number 9 at $24.33. Squirtle, another starter, another Kanto starter, and from 151, meaning that the price is automatically going to be pretty high. $26.34 for this Squirtle. This actually, out of the evolution line, Squirtle, Wartortle, Blastoise, probably my least favorite one. The Wartortle, really cool. The Blastoise doesn't fit the list because it's a special illustration rare, but the colors of blue that they use in these cards are absolutely awesome. Then we have the Ghastly, Temporal Forces. This one's kind of been holding in that $25 to $30 range for a month or two here, and it's currently at $27.02. I kind of thought that this one might spike up a little bit more, just like some of the ones you're about to see, because a few months back, like let's say 6 months ago, lots of these illustration rares, this one didn't even exist yet 6 months ago, but lots of these illustration rares were actually quite a bit lower, and they've seen a big increase. Like, people are starting to take notice of how good the illustration rare cards are, and Ghastly, along with Haunter and Gengar, is a really popular Pokemon. I could see this card doing well in the future for sure. Charmander, the most popular starter from Kanto. I said it. I don't know. It's my favorite one. I don't know what you think. Leave a comment down below in the description. Who's your favorite starter from Kanto? Mine's definitely Charmander. $33.11. This is the most expensive illustration rare card out of Scarlet and Violet 151. Number 6. Then we're getting into some of the bigger ones. The Tyranitar. This is one of those ones that has had a really nice gain over the last 6 months if you look at the graph. Coming in right now at $34.14 from Paldea Evolved. I mean, this card has Godzilla vibes all over the place. Really, really cool card. Then the Raichu, another Paldea Evolved one. So Paldea Evolved really leading the charge in the illustration rare department. Of course, you know what card is coming up next at number 1. But Raichu, Tyranitar, and the number 1 card If you don't know it, you got to wait because I'm not going to say it before then. Raichu currently at $43.38. Then we have the Eevee. This is one of the newest ones from Twilight Masquerade, and we all knew this card was going to do well just because it's Eevee. Like, you immediately know. You say Eevee, and you know that the price is going to come along with it. Currently, the number 3 most valued illustration rare card out of Scarlet and Violet era at $45.99. I actually thought that this one might drop after like the first couple weeks of release of Twilight Masquerade, but this card has been holding its value very, very nicely. Then we have the Groudon from Paradox Rift, and this is one of those ones that has really gone up. It's actually slowed down a little bit over the last month or so here, but it's getting awfully close to overtaking that Roaring Moon special illustration rare for the top card of the set. It's not there yet, but it could. I wouldn't believe it if it did, but it definitely could. And we all know it, and if you don't, you've been living under I don't even know what. The top card, the top illustration rare card out of Scarlet and Violet era so far, the Magikarp, absolutely gorgeous card, really hard to get in a Gem Mint 10. I don't know why. The obvious thing, if you haven't seen it yet, is the Gyarados right here where the mouse is. Absolutely spectacular. And this card just continues to cook. $127.67 is where it currently is in the marketplace today on TCG Player, and that is the number 1 illustration rare card. So one more slide to show you about. I just counted out how many of each set it had. Scarlet and Violet base set came with 5 cards in the top 50 for illustration rares. Paldea Evolved, the clear-cut winner at 13 illustration rare cards that made the list. Obsidian Flames only had the 2, that Cleffa and the Ninetales. Scarlet and Violet 151 also did extremely well, but considering how expensive Scarlet and Violet 151 packs are compared to Paldea Evolved, it's pretty impressive that Paldea Evolved has that many illustration rares. Shows how strong of a set it is. Paradox Rift has 10. Paldean Fates, the only set to release from Scarlet and Violet era that has not had any hits here, because for whatever reason, Paldean Fates is a great set in my opinion, but the illustration rares did not do good at all. There's the Wug Trio, and there's the Paladin, and I'm forgetting what the last one is, but all of them are under $1. Like they're not even close to making this list. Temporal Forces had 4, Twilight Masquerade had 5. So ultimately like fairly evened out, but Paldea Evolved, Scarlet and Violet 151, and Paradox Rift definitely the clear-cut winners of the group. And I think that's really a testament to how good Scarlet and Violet era is so far. Like you have 3 sets that have double digits in the top 50 of illustration rare, most valuable cards. I love it. Paldea Evolved is clearly a great set. People really like it. You got that Raichu. You have that Tyranitar. Of course, you have the Magikarp, but there's a lot of those like $7 to $15 cards in Paldea Evolved as well. Scarlet and Violet 151, we don't even really need to talk about. It's got the Kanto starters in it. It's got some really popular Pokemon. And it's just Scarlet and Violet 151. It's obviously going to be popular. Paradox Rift also has some good ones, including that Groudon, which is just really, really an awesome card. So I just think people have underestimated Scarlet and Violet era and the illustration rares for so long, but not so long anymore. People are really starting to take notice. I think illustration rares are the driving force behind Scarlet and Violet era being a good investment. Because, of course, Sword and Shield had the good alternate arts. Scarlet and Violet has the good special illustration rares. Like, the top cards of the sets are always pretty fun to chase. But with Scarlet and Violet era, having the illustration rares to chase and to add value to your pulls as well, it's just too good. Hey, if you like the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel with bell notifications on. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. I told you to leave a comment in the video. What's your favorite starter from Kanto? I'm curious. Mine, obviously, Charmander. But I appreciate if you would tell me yours. And till my next video, have a good one. Peace.